All right, today we're going to talk about a true genius, someone who gave the world one of its most powerful tools by inventing nothing. Sounds weird, right? Stick with me.
So let's just start with a super simple question. You've probably known the answer since you were a kid. What is 3 minus 5?
You're thinking -2, of course. But what if I told you that for most of human history, that simple question was a complete paradox? The answer was literally impossible. There just wasn't a number for it.
So, to get why this was so mind-bending, you have to try and imagine a world without nothing. A world that had absolutely no concept of zero or negative numbers.
I mean, really think about that. How would you even describe owing someone money? How could you mathematically represent a loss in your business? These weren't just abstract math problems. They were huge practical roadblocks for everything from commerce to science.
But then, way back in 7th century India, this incredible solution came from a single person who would honestly change everything. It's time we met the genius from Bilam.
His name was Brahmagupta. He was born in 598 CE in what was then a bustling hub of learning. And get this, at just 30 years old, he writes his masterpiece, the Brahmasphuṭasiddhānta. This book wasn't just another dusty text, it was a revolution in waiting.
So how on earth did he solve a problem that had stumped the greatest minds for centuries? Well, he didn't just invent a new number. He created a whole new way of thinking about numbers, using ideas everyone could grasp: fortune, debt, and zero.
And this is where it gets so elegant. Instead of talking about some abstract, negative quantity, he used concepts from everyday life. For positive numbers, he used the Sanskrit word dhana, which means fortune or property, things you have. And for negative numbers, he used rina, which means debt, things you owe. All of a sudden, less than nothing wasn't some impossible concept. It was just being in debt. Brilliant, right?
And using this simple idea, he built a whole new system of arithmetic. He was the first to lay out clear rules for this stuff. A debt plus another debt, that's just a bigger debt. That makes perfect sense. A fortune multiplied by a debt, that gets you a debt. Again, totally logical. But this last one, this is where his genius is just on another level. He said a debt multiplied by a debt results in a fortune. A negative times a negative is a positive. That was a huge leap, and it's basically the bedrock of modern algebra.
Now, his other massive contribution was with the number 0. People had used 0 as a placeholder before, to tell the difference between 15 and 105. But Brahmagupta was the first person we know of to treat 0 as a real number, a thing in itself with its own rules. His definition was just beautiful. 0 is the number you get when you subtract a number from itself. Simple as that.
And from there, he laid out the rules for working with it. Add or subtract 0, nothing changes. Multiply by 0, you get 0. He got most of it spot on. What's really fascinating, though, is how he tackled division by 0. He suggested that 0 divided by 0 is 0. Now, by today's math, that's not quite right. We say it's undefined. But the fact that he was even wrestling with this problem shows you he was pushing the absolute frontier of what was known.
You have to understand, this wasn't just some clever thought experiment. This was the idea that was going to change math and the world forever.
And his work went on this incredible world tour. It started in India in 628. Then about 150 years later, it made its way to Baghdad. There, it was translated into Arabic, influencing brilliant minds like Al-Khwarizmi. Yep, the guy who gave us the word algebra, who then helped spread these ideas all the way to Europe and beyond.
And just to put his genius into perspective for you, think about this number, 1,000. Brahmagupta was nearly 1,000 years ahead of his time. It took Europe until the 16th and 17th centuries to really fully catch up and accept negative numbers. 1,000 years.
And hey, if you think inventing 0 and negative numbers was all he did, you'd be so wrong. This guy was a polymath. He came up with a formula for the area of quadrilaterals, he gave us the first clear solution for quadratic equations, and he even described gravity as an attractive force centuries before Newton.
It's really no surprise that the famous historian of science, George Sarton, called him one of the greatest scientists of his race and the greatest of his time. That's not just high praise. It's a recognition that this was a mind that fundamentally reshaped how we see the world.
So, here's the bottom line. By giving us the rules for nothing, Brahmagupta actually gave us everything. He handed us the language, the mathematical toolkit to describe the incredibly complex systems that run our world, from the debts and credits of finance to the positive and negative charges of physics.
Which kind of leaves you with a big question to chew on, doesn't it? Just how different would our modern world be if we had never learned how to actually work with nothing?